Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on with our discussions and our explorations with respect to those films directed by the one, the only, Mr. David Cronenberg. And that brings us to a very special, memorable film, which was released in 1975, written and directed by David Cronenberg, produced by Ivan Reitman, with special effects, makeup effects credited to Joe Blasco, and a great cast, included in which are Paul Hampton, Lynn Lowry, Joe Silver, Barbara Steele, Susan Petrie, Alan Mijikovsky, Ronald Blotzik, and others. And I'm speaking once again of the work released in 1975, and it is that film, which is Shivers. This is a brilliant film, which operates on so many levels, just as the works of David Cronenberg do. And so it is my great pleasure to share with you, or try to share with you, just some thoughts and comments I have about this one-of-a-kind work from the mind of David Cronenberg. Now, before I get into any specifics of the conversation, let me say that I will try to divide the following conversation into two parts. The first part being a general non-spoiler type of discussion, and then the second part being a more detailed spoiler-filled discussion. So just in case you have not yet seen this film, I will try to devote the first part of this discussion to a very general discussion, and then we will have specifics in the second half. So you don't have to watch the second half if you haven't seen the film yet. And in fact, I encourage you to, if this film is your cup of tea, I encourage you to watch the film. And then you can always visit the video, in particular the second half of this video, after you have seen the film. So just in case you're interested. And perhaps I can use that as a starting off point for the general discussion component of this video by saying that this film is oftentimes regarded as a horror film, a type of shock horror film. And there are indeed many aspects of the horror and special effects and type of physical horror of involving the physical body in very graphic detail. And so if that type of film is not your cup of tea, then of course you don't have to watch the film Shivers. And there's no pressure at all to do so. However, it is a film that I think operates so effectively as a type of horror film, as a type of genre film that is presenting a lot of detail and a lot of graphic and very vivid detail. And it's doing so effectively and so imaginatively that it remains, I think, a very shocking, a visceral experience indeed. And also, there are many concepts that I would suggest, and I know many people who are fans of this film have identified in terms of the treatment and handling of human relationships, of sexuality, of the nature of evolution, and also the nature of desire and manifestation, the outward physical manifestation of that which is emotional and ephemeral and intellectual. And what the consequences are of that type of transformation, indeed, and then in the context of a wonderfully visceral and very inventive horror film. And so these are concepts that I think are very much part of the David Cronenberg experience. And once again, if it is something that is not necessarily your cup of tea, that is okay. However, for those for whom this type of intense film is okay viewing entertainment, then this is something that is strongly recommended indeed. And I think also in terms of a general starting off point of this film, I think we can focus in on, again, a film that is often described as being a type of horror film, because in terms of its maybe general details of plot, one can identify perhaps a plot or story structure involving invasion involving a type of parasite or monster of sorts, an external parasite that seems to invade the human body. And the results of such invasion is, well, first of all, there is the sort of visceral and the physical horror extremities involved in terms of the actual invasive process itself that involve very inventive use of practical special effects. But also in terms of the concept, the horror concept, we have the idea of the invasion causing some kind of reaction that means that the infected persons are acting out in these very chaotic and oftentimes seemingly nonsensical and perhaps even illogical and perhaps violent, aggressive ways towards other people. And it seems to have it somehow to do with some kind of unleashing of feelings of inhibition, thus causing one to act out in very chaotic, violent ways vis-a-vis one's sexual lusts or sexual urges and the like. And so that means that the people who are infected become this very anarchic, chaotic force, and the infection grows as this chaos grows, as the infection spreads. And so we have the space of this place of infection, as more and more people are getting infected, being this luxury apartment building, which is referred to as Starliner Towers. And it has or features many aspects of high-class, modern-day luxury apartment space living, together with the amenities involved with, say, sports facilities, shopping facilities, and also medical facilities and the like. Thus, and also in terms of its physical location, geographic location, it's near the city of Montreal, but also it's segregated in terms of its location on an island known as Nuns Island, I recall. So this means that it has the connection with the outside world, but yet it also has its segregated, isolated aspect to it. And it's in this segregated, isolated setting in which this story of the infection and the mystery of the infection, what's going on, and the parasite, and the actual mechanism and workings of this parasite, and the sort of physical manifestations of this, and the horror that is involved a lot of times with such physical manifestations, etc., etc. How all this is involved in this segregated, isolated setting. And it creates this sense of pressure and suspense and horror, and also a sense of the mysterious, as well as feeding into those very primal, very functional, and quite deep themes, as I say, of isolation and connection. And those ideas of connection and isolation are dealt with in terms of physical manifestations, which is also another way to say human sexuality, and also the concept or notion of transformation or evolution. And that road of transformation or evolution can involve very harsh and oftentimes bloody and gooey forms of physical change indeed, leading, perhaps another way to describe it as being acts of violence, leading to steps of transformation or evolution, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing too. That's another concept that I think this film deals with. But it is also, I think, a very visceral, shock-filled horror film that has a lot of maybe science or science-based aspects to the presentation of its plot. The idea of research and parasites, the idea of transforming the human psyche, and the idea of the guinea pig and the lab experiment gone awry, and then the idea of an uncontrolled infection that is spreading to the point of critical mass. And it's all taking place within this pressure cooker-like environment that is also the sign of modern age living in luxury. Modern age living in luxury turned into anarchy and chaos, a la David Cronenberg. It's all here embedded in this, as I say, wonderfully inventive, imaginative, and very scary and shocking and gooey horror film that is from the master, David Cronenberg. So this is the work that is Shivers. And so what I will do now is I will speak in the remainder of this video about specific aspects of the plot and character. So if you haven't seen the film Shivers yet, and if this is a film that, if you are okay with watching horror films, then I would strongly recommend watching this film Shivers, and then you can come back to this conversation if you're interested, and we can talk with more detail about the characters and plot about this David Cronenberg work from 1975, that is Shivers.